I would say in one word, it was the biggest mobilization of Kenyans towards, ever, I think in terms of political mobilization, what we went through in 2022 could only be compared with the NAC revolution of 2002. And therefore, the energies, the efforts, the synergies that we needed to bring together, the risks, the political risks, the huge weight of decision making, political dilemmas that accompanied every move and every choice that you make. And especially noting that I was a Jubilee Party member, member of Parliament, with all the team that we were mobilizing and had agreed on your own volition to mobilize to support the current president, Dr. William Samoei Ruto. I'm very proud of the decision personally I made as a person, and you won't believe it. Nobody really looked for me to join Dr. William Ruto. This was a personal decision. And I'm those people who, when you make a personal decision, you kind of sleep over it. You have thought through, not out of panic, and not out of any particular, no personal, there was these stories of we are looking after our stomachs.
Yes, yes.
No promise in terms of, for me to join, come we do ABCD, or I will give you ABCD. That is not the way, that's not my character.
Yes.
And therefore, I made a personal decision that I would work with Dr. William Ruto. I'm happy that we were able to mobilize Kenyans around the issues of economic transformation, and especially the bottom-up economic transformation agenda that now we have put in place, and it's informing most, maybe all of our planning in terms of government organization and planning.
Okay.
You remember we were talking about Pesa Mfukoni. So that is on course. Albeit the difficult economic times, that I believe is on course, because what you need is a plan, and then come up with strategies to implement the plans that you are putting in place. Let me tell you, Enoch, the risks were huge. The political weight was very, very strong, because we now appeared, or we came out now on the opposite path of His Excellency, former President of this Republic, who obviously then comes from our region, from my region. It became a very worrying factor for some people, and especially even our own supporters, and even our own families were fearful. The activities around the political work for that particular regime was one, they chose to intimidate. They chose to use money with some of the people. And they chose to use the criminal justice system to intimidate, to take you to court, or to threaten you that you'll be accused of this and this, you'll be charged. They, of course, used the financial system to destabilize some people from their own businesses. They looked for every other issue that you can place on somebody to smear them. For me, I was very uncomfortable to fight Dr. William Ruto, and especially on the issues that were being placed before his path. There was a background where in 2013, when I was elected the first time, having lost in 2002 and 2007, having lost those two campaigns, then we come to 2013, I was able to get my seat. And then therefore, the people who were leading us, who had mobilized again heavily, especially in Mount Kenya region, of course, was the president, former president, and his deputy. And I do not understand how our former president did not get it right that they sowed their campaign issues, they market themselves that that government was like a twin government. The president was the president, no competition, no doubt about it. And we really loved and respected our former president, and we were happy to be part of his team. And we also equally respected and were happy that this team was quite organized, and we managed to get the presidency in 2013. And then come 2017, it was even much easier for some people like us. Because really, I mean, you couldn't tell people in my region that one term is enough for President Uhuru Kenyatta. And so we went into 2017 knowing from the messages that we were sending in 2013 to 2017 that we will be having President Uhuru for 10 years. And we also promised William Ruto another 10 years. So this strategy to isolate, to remove President Ruto, now former deputy president, that was humiliating in a manner that it is not really culturally supported. You know, my community, the Kikuyu community, the Mount Kenya people, are people who are mature in their way of handling friendships. And for us, we value respect and decorum. I think the political space that was there was so abrasive and so, I haven't seen that kind of, I don't think we should do those kind of politics. Because once you have an arrangement, you have agreed, you have won, there's a package, honor these particular promises, because you have brought in people into your arrangement, your political arrangement. If you fall out, then I don't know, I think there should be, there is no script in politics, no right or wrong script, you can say that. But I think you do not need to humiliate, you do not need to fight, you don't need to use political justice system. You can sell issues, you can explain to people that, look, our friendship is over, you don't even have to give many reasons. Then work towards then getting whoever you want to be elected without hurting, appearing to fight. I can tell you myself personally, I was targeted. At one time, it was clear and information was coming to us that we are likely to be eliminated from the world. We will be killed. Yes. Those reports were coming. People were thinking of how do we stop these people? Because I wouldn't take money myself in exchange of what I believed has gone wrong and how we need to correct it, even for future generations, posterity. You know, you have heard us talking about conmanship or betrayal. I was not used to that kind of open, blatant betrayal, and therefore I felt I did not want to be part of that. Secondly, the people around the first regime of President Uhuru Kenyatta were also very selfish and reasonable, and they really didn't care about most members of parliament from my region. So it was just a small clique there, doing things around the president, sometimes with either authority or, and it's hard to know whether authority has been given by the president or not. So because of course they have this larger than life or, you know, or image and perception created that if you see so and so, then you know the force behind that person is the presidency. So, you know, people like Akina Murathe from my own home ground, of course that, I mean, people like Naatuori, I think the whole of those teams mismanaged the presidency, because the presidency is not one person. For selfish gains, I think they did not find that they will thereafter then sit well with Dr. William Samoei Ruto. For whatever reasons, I think they felt they would not be comfortable if they support him to take presidency. So the situation was not good you didn't do any business. Personally, I chose not to do business with government because I hadn't done business with government before. I'm a practitioner, legal practitioner. I mean, there are small means, I would say so, but enough for my family, where I, because we are two in this home. Yeah, I have my husband and myself, so he brings home what he brings and I bring home, and we are able to really to survive and work well, and we are not, so I wasn't exposed personally in terms of I would be taken to court or accused of biashara with government, because what they did is that it didn't matter whether the business was well done, whether there was any issues or not. As long as you had a file, you had worked for government, whatever, they would create issues that don't exist. And we promised Kenyans that we, the government of Kenya Kwanza, will not take that route. We must completely divorce the presidency, the executive, from other arms that support the country to govern. The judiciary, you remember, there were cases that the judiciary was embarrassed and really, denied even financial support. Judges' failure to be appointed, for unexplained reasons. And really the appointment of judges, for example, for the president is merely ceremonial. And that's how the constitution was done or was made, because Kenyans had gone through a very rough time before, where judges were appointed for specific interests, not to dispense justice, but for specific interests. So I can tell you that my family was afraid. My supporters were always afraid. The disruptions, especially during COVID period, of our activities, not once, not twice. You remember the Keno case, where we really were attacked in a very, and those people should actually seek maybe do confession. They don't need to seek to give an apology or forgiveness. But I think forgiveness is necessary. They need to confess, because defiling the altar is not one of the things you want to do. The police were forced, and calls were coming in like lightning. You must make sure that meeting in Keno, that church function in Keno doesn't take place. You must disrupt Alice. You do whatever you want to do, but get people out of church. That day, the church started earlier than the normal hour that they start at 10 a.m. because there was a wedding on the same day that the church had invited us. And because the day, when you invite the deputy president or the president, they give you the date. Yes. Largely, they give you their date. Mm-hmm. So the date that was given to us coincided with a wedding that had been set for a very young couple, very, very young, simple people there. So we told them we can accommodate the wedding as you had scheduled, but bring it forward an hour before. So the church was full with a wedding party. You can imagine, police being sent to church or electing to come inside the church, stop a wedding ceremony going on, throwing everybody out of the church. These people ran into the office inside the church. And so when I walked, I was alerted. Things are bad here. In fact, it is possible that people have died. So I really panicked and I drove very quickly because I was waiting for a signal from the deputy president, now my president, to be told, for alert that he has taken off. He was flying. So, and I was within the constituency, it's just 5 minutes away. So and we had been told that they may disrupt. But at no time had I foreseen that the attack will be so vicious that they will want to remove people from church. I thought it is the usual, maybe shouting and whatever. This was very excessive, very sickening, and 2 young people died, unfortunately. People had organized that stuff, and the aim was to stop. We had for a long time not been able to do campaigns because of the COVID restrictions. Yes. And therefore, the aim was to destabilize and to create fear. And if that particular church event or service visit by the President, William Ruto, at Keno did not take place, you can be sure it was meant to be the script for any other church service or event he planned. You remember I was also disrupted in a school function when again he had come, because they had known the key people that were being listened to. You know, our people had already identified me as one of the message bearers of the direction that we are taking in terms of the next presidency. So therefore, the system had earmarked me for disruption, for whatever it is to stop Alice Wahome. I had been off, and therefore, you remember also at the, so that finally, anyway, God works in his own different ways. When the current team now called me, Alice, because of course there is an advanced team. The advanced team on the ground said, look, this thing is now very nasty. People have died. The church is disrupted. The wedding is not going on. This whole place is full of tear gas, what do you call it? The smoke from the tear gas canisters, because they had also tear gas. People are waiting and crying. And the church expectation, So the team on the ground, advanced team, mainly security team, said, no, we are not bringing the deputy president in this environment. I remember, I don't have to mention his name, but the lead advanced team member, who is a security member or protocol, I told him, can you get out of my face? Because you came to work with us. You did not come to endorse or to facilitate these devious people that are doing this thing. So you either are with me or you are not with me. I don't want you here if you are to discourage the deputy president from coming. Luckily, Farouk normally has very right sense. Farouk called me. He said, Alice, I'm hearing that you people now don't want us to come. I said, that is not my message. If you don't come to Keno, if the deputy president doesn't come to Keno, count me out for any other organization, for any other rallies, for anything else, because this is a do or die. Telephone calls were coming all the way from France because the president was actually in France, whether by him or by people with him, saying this must be stopped. So anyway, finally, the good thing is that God works in his own ways. In 30 minutes, the deputy president then arrived at the church. And I think they now got paralyzed. They decided, now we can't now tear gas this place when he has arrived. So the environment was all smoke and what happened. And so many events like that, Enoch, occurred. Remember, there was another one in Kieni. The now, Mheshimiwa Mavenge or Kanini Kega organized some other strange thing there to disrupt the church, to stone our cars. Of course, the Mainanjenga was used in various places. Like one of the tours we went to Nyahururu, his teams and this time, of course, all his placards are showing his Azimio because he was a KANU aspirant. He's with us. He's following our entourage every stop with the youth. His electorate, his team is mainly the youth supporters. So everywhere, and you're asking them, why are you doing this? Because, I also know Maina, so all of us now have met Maina in all this political whatever. So you're asking Maina, what is it? Why don't you go and plan your own rallies? We don't come to your rallies. So the worst is to fight with a government that is determined to finish you. Then, of course, it came to onslaught into the House. I was the Vice Chair, Justice and Legal Affairs. I was, of course, de-whipped from that position. When the things became difficult, because now the BBI is being rejected and we are really battering it in the campaign grounds, then they realized they are also now losing it. We are carrying the people with us. So they started making offers to us. I was offered to be the Chair, Justice and Legal Affairs, so that we remove Cheptumo, who was my chair. And I was also told, look, we are going to give you development. We are going to sit down with you, give us your plan for Kandara, but please get out of this thing. Many people were sent to me. I don't want to mention their names, but senior, serious people within my community from Murang'a County, from outside Murang'a County, all the way from Meru. They looked for people who are known to my family members, to my husband. Until one time my husband was told, look, this thing is going to be very difficult. I think just advise Alice. You know, I need to meet her, but you just know. So, you know, my husband is not very, okay, he's an intelligent man because he's a gynecologist, but politics is not his cup of tea. And therefore, sometimes he may not be so quick to understand what is the message being delivered in terms of. So he said, look, these people are bothering me. Why don't you meet them? I said, no problem. Give them my number. And I'm sure they have my number. And then, so I said, look, this is what they told you. Just know that is a threat to you. You know, because they are telling him, look, I think this is not good for the family. And just know this thing is going to be very difficult for her. So, you know, Enoch, if you are told that about your wife, obviously you will start thinking twice. So he told me, at least he was able to say, I don't like the way they are coming. I said, actually, the important thing to note is that you are also now profiled and you should also be careful. So the offers were made for those kind of offers. I was also asked that I should, after that, we are going to sit, have a plan, make money available for my campaigns. And of course, whatever I was going to ask, I think was going to be put on the table. I told them actually, and in fact, I was also offered for support for the governor of Murang'a. To be governor. If they were not sure what I wanted. So they were like, what do you want? Hapo mbele, what will you be going for? I said, I'm still in the plan and I haven't made up my mind because they thought, obviously I was one of the most well-placed to secure the governor of Murang'a seat. Because it was me or Dede Nyoro. I knew, because we were always discussing and planning with Dede Nyoro. I knew Dede Nyoro is also not interested in governor. They wouldn't know. But so they thought maybe one of us will offer ourselves for governor. And it is something we also considered. But we were, between us, me and Nyoro, we knew none of us will go for that particular seat because then it may restrict us so much to local or county politics, trying to secure just that seat, when we knew there was huge responsibility nationally to be out of the county and to support. You remember I was also the leader, the chair of the Inua Mama brigade, if I may use that word loosely. The team, Inua Mama team of women leaders. Most of them now, some of them in government, others were able to secure their seats. And we obviously are very hopeful that the remaining ones will also secure jobs elsewhere. That was another very good thing because it really profiled many women leaders. And of course, I am a strong proponent and supporter of women leaders. And I was very happy to lead that team as well. Myself, and Governor Susan Kihika. And look now where Susan also is. Let me first say, I think, for me, the approach, you see, we had a government that was running, and we thought smoothly. You have just been elected, all of us, including President Uhuru in 2017, and now you are going to his second term. All of a sudden, of course, there was this issue of Raila pushing, push and pull, and elections, ABCD have been, stolen, my election and whatever, the usual madamano. We had personally had not foreseen a situation where President Uhuru will go sit down with Raila without first calling the deputy president because of the way they had worked. We had just come from very bruising campaign. So you would expect that they will sit down. The way we were used to things being done is that there would be meetings, cordial meetings among them, at least so to speak, because when they came to us, there was an agreed way forward or plan of how we shall handle certain political issues before we can arrive at a decision. And one of those platforms is to call a PG, because as a member of parliament, obviously, whatever decision a president makes, political decision, it has an impact on my career and also on the people who are looking at me for leadership in the constituency, including outside your constituency. So this decision to handshake, these greetings were not discussed, at least not with the PG. For me as a member of parliament, I was not consulted. And if individual consultation is not enough, even assuming one or two members were consulted, because they may not tell the president no, it is always better to call. For members of parliament, it works better if you call them to a PG and allow a free conversation, because even the minute you call a PG, most of the times there is an agenda. Whether it's written or not, it is known the agenda is, we are going to discuss this. That wasn't done. We woke up like everybody else to see our president on the steps of Harambee House with the Honorable Raila Odinga. Indeed, I think it was unfortunate because immediately for us, we decided this is not our thing, we are not there. And then we also looked and saw the deputy president is not there. What is going on? Is there a problem? So then it started going on. The clerks now started from there. You started hearing those people who are going to Harambee House. I wasn't one of those people actually who were going to Harambee House for frequent consultations with the deputy president. I wasn't myself. I think I had been identified as a supporter of Uhuru because of some of the things that maybe I did. Because obviously from the region I came from the beginning, 2013, we were TNE. So our party leader was the president that time. And therefore, you would have to have a good reason also to consult the deputy president, because not everybody who really can get free access. Apparently, of course, the president now current is one of the leaders who allows a lot of free access when you understand him or when you seek to get his hearing. But I wasn't used to that myself. Maybe I was, because I was also learning, this is my first term of parliament. So there were people who used to go there quite often. So this second term, that now between January and March, you started hearing before the greetings, and then soon after the greetings, people started being profiled. Who goes to Harambee House Annex? Those people, Then I wondered, what is this now? What are people trying to develop here? What is this discussion in aid of what? So, it started becoming very discouraging and difficult for those people who used to go there. I think myself, I could count the times I had gone. So even when people there, management of that whole thing, scenario of the handshake was purely personal between two people, and I have said that before, and it was not, thereafter, it would have been saved if then plans of now bringing it to the members of parliament, consult the elected leaders, explain yourself, and then bring them on board. Nobody was interested to do that. And we asked, can we meet so that we can know what role we are expected to perform and how we shall help the handshake to thrive. It continued. You could see now people have taken a different turn completely, and it's like now they can start speaking anyhow against the president, the deputy president. So then, of course, comes now that thing. And I said, when this thing happened, we started seeing this is now a political plan for 2022. And then there is a candidate or a partnership with Raila. Raila has not been brought to us. We haven't been told why. We will support him why. What did the other one do? How shall we tell our people? Noting the historical or informing backgrounds, where we have come from. These campaigns were bruising. Mambo mingi. So we said, some of us now decided, look, and in every team, once leaders emerge, I think we just emerged among others, strong voices, constant voices, persistent voices, and maybe credible voices, irrespective of everything else that they were saying. We were firm, and we had good message, and we didn't see ourselves working with the Right Honorable Raila Odinga. And nobody was interested, actually, the way I would think, until it became very hard for them. They started seeing they used the wrong strategy. But in the beginning, nobody was interested. Because systems also clear people like that, you know. They clear our members, you know. Strong people are not the best cards for politics. Not too many strong people are needed. I was not happy with the way we were handling the presidency and governance in the country. You know, many things were not being done properly. Appointments have hazard. You are not being asked. You know, you are not even being. Nobody cares about your choice, your constituency, your voice, your opinion. And of course, you are accountable to your electorate. Yeah. When you go to the ground, you are being asked difficult questions. And people started feeling very angry with our president, former president. So for me, I wanted to do right. I wasn't convinced that the choice of now to drop William Ruto and then because it became very clear, very early, within the handshake, whatever, maneno. I wasn't convinced it was an interest for the public good, for the larger public good, especially from our own backyard. Because if you don't consult the leaders there, if you don't give them the reasons, then it means it is either personal or you have an arrangement that you don't want others to know. So I felt that it is time to, and I didn't like the betrayal. I said before, I think the betrayal was looking very bad. It was making the community also and the leaders look very selfish. And the former president was not interested in good order, you know, because I think, you know, we have democratic principles and governance. And sometimes it's also very bad. You know, politics is very emotional. And people get very hurt. And therefore, when you mismanage, remember, one of the informing reasons why Uhuru and William Ruto came together, there was the 2007 conflict. And they sold this package of, look, we shall be peace bearers. We will be the people to start bringing this country together. So for them to now start fighting, and it is clear that you have isolated one person, you haven't explained, he comes from a community. There are Kenyans in your own community who also now have taken him as their own, and they are happy with him and their regiment that is there. Then I felt that, look, we must correct, help the president to correct. But he never gave us opportunity. The 2 times we went for PG in State House, it was for lecture and action to be taken against us. That's not how you treat a member of parliament. Let me tell you, even the one who doesn't speak a lot, to reach there, he has a certain number of people that elected him. Yeah. And the voice of that member of parliament is going to, will have an impact, positive or negative. So you can imagine the number that we were able to mobilize. We had about 172, roughly about 172 Jubilee members. At some point, we would mobilize up to 140, leaving a small token number of about 30, 25. The same number that was elected this time, especially from the main Jubilee, that is the Uhuru backyard. So you ask me, what made me stand so strong without changing? One, I am a confident person in terms of my space. I was very clear that I'm doing the right thing. Two, I felt a very strong injustice is being caused, and we are being used to perpetrate or perpetuate that. Three, I thought we needed a new breed of politics. And four, I also needed to make my own personal statement and define myself instead of just now being lumped. You have no voice, you have no face, you know, in terms of decisions are being made, you're not important. And you are now serving as a second member of parliament that time. So I said, these people now need also to be told Kenyans are not where they were many years ago. And we need to start bringing a new blood of politics and also kind of free the people to be able to make decisions. You know, also this thing of how can you fight with the dynasty? Are you not going to be finished? Also, that is not a good brand of politics. And the government, the system must be able to understand that the will of the people and the vote can be stronger and is stronger given the processes working and being done correctly. The will of the people always should reign. You know, Enoch, Sikori, in politics, there are normally either 2, 3, or 4 teams. It's never one side. Yeah. It's never one stream. So, whenever you know your opponent is on one side or one stream, and you are likely not to be able to buy that stream, then you take the opposite. So even if they said sometimes, you know, it's good that we are honest. Sometimes they may even have a very good proposal or, you know, or issue. But because they are also not on your side, then you have to first wait and see how, if you take that issue, how it will impact on you, on your electorate, and on your affiliation. So BPI was, from the beginning now, it became the vehicle that the former president and Raila now were going to use for 2022. And when we said that in the beginning, there was fervent denial. So eventually, it displayed itself, demonstrated itself that actually this was a vehicle for 2020. So, you know, you have to have a campaign issue. So it was a campaign issue were badly started, not disseminated, not legally supported, no legislative framework for it, and supported by any useful constitution. I mean, you see, constitutionally, you know, there are processes that amending the constitution is either by parliament or referenda, by the people of Kenya. Yes. Even if parliament, we will still go to the people of Kenya. Yeah. So the way it was started by two people, you know, the 9 points, what, after that, this. So it became very obvious that for us, if you fell into that, then it means you are supporting Raila and Uhuru.
So it became more like...
Now it became a contest. Yes. Because you are not for Uhuru. And I was very sure William will defeat. Somehow I could see from our background, William was very popular. He's still very popular. And therefore, you couldn't, you have to weigh the cards. Some people decided that they were doing business with government. Actually, some of the people who lost, members of parliament, because they were doing business with government. People like us were not doing business with government. And I opted not to bother, because you either do business, keep the money, lose the seat. And we told them, and we would sit at tea and say, what is it for them? You hear them, you know. But others believed the system and the presidency will work magic for them. I would tell some of my former colleagues, look, at tea, are you not seeing, can you interrogate this position, this situation, and see that when the rubber hits the road, there is no way people will drop William and take Raila. It is late. It didn't become late in 2018. William had become an item, an issue in our constituencies. In Mount Kenya region, William was very popular. So you had to do a lot of work. And of course, former president was also not available to do campaigns. And William Ruto was always available to tell people, I'm here, I've come, ni mimi, tulikuwa, tumeenda, safari hii, you know, mara hii, what is the problem? And nimetumwa na rais, serikali iko imara. You know, then you are saying Raila, Amoro, Odinga, the opposite. People are saying, how? Huyu ni mtu amesubua watu. You know, in certain regions, Raila is perceived this particular way. Just like now, William is also being perceived in a certain way. But I'm happy that, you know, if you look at the way William has done his campaigns, he's now even gaining a global outlook, which is very good for Kenya and very strategic also for Africa, because even economically, politically, geopolitical areas, we need that voice there. So when then you therefore have to make a choice, I don't think it will, to be very honest, the people, Akina Sabina, my good friend, now we are not fighting anymore. Akina Kanini Kega, Akina Kimari, I think they believe, because the story they would be told, and that also came to us. It was quite frightful for us that it doesn't matter whether you get the votes. We shall announce your opponent. In fact, our opponents were saying and telling people openly, ata anishide na kura, ni mimi nitatangazwa. That was a very common statement among them. So they were also, I think, deceived. They were conned.
The deep state.
The deep state conned them. They were told the deep state will not allow William Ruto to be sworn in. Now, the president, former, also was on record saying, I will not hand over to a thief. Enoch. You know, you have to be a bit politically naive, because, you know, you have no choice of handover or no handover. Because the constitution has put in place mechanisms of handover, and you don't even have to come to handover. The period is set. By this time, there will be a president. Handover or no handover. Let me tell you, Enoch, serikali ni ngumu sana understand. when the people see me, they are very sure I am a deep state of some sort.
Yes.
You know, when they see Dede, when they see, you know, the deep state, you can create a deep state yourself. As long as you have some influence. But the real deep state is now where the power rolls around.
Yeah.
Automatically, the deep state will be influenced by or will form around the president. There will be this deep state around the deputy president. There will be deep state around influential persons around the president. And of course, the security organs are part of the deep state. In other words, it is this government system that people call it deep state, but that government system, that whole thing there called government, now used by good people and bad people for whatever interest. Chebukati is the one who announced President, let's even go to 2017. He's the one who did the elections. And the Right Honorable Raila Odinga brought a lot of problems. Even 2013, he also brought problems. But for 2017, he placed squarely Chebukati in the center of all that problem with his IEBC. But remember, William Ruto was a member of ODM. They worked with the Right Honorable Raila Odinga. For the elections they lost in 2007, William Ruto supported Raila. Those days, Chebukati was one of the ODM people. So he must have been afraid of Raila and afraid of Ruto. And I strongly believe they must have given their support in his normally there is, you know, you can beat it up, you know, you can lobby against. Politicians have a way of lobbying against it. But you know, there was also a competitive process that was done. And initially, after the 2017 elections, the Right Honorable Raila Odinga wanted Chebukati out. But when the handshake came, I think he was prevailed upon that, look, we are even changing some members of IEBC. And we are now the deep state. We will deal with this thing. And they even announced that, look, what we missed was the presidency and the deep state. We have the two. Now we have the two. They have the government and they have the deep state. You know, there can also be government and deep state. You know, government, the people going to the office as the government. This deep state in hii maneno ingine ya ndani hivi. So I want to believe that Chebukati is and I think he's a very strong person because he really went very bad. He went through very bad experience at Bomas, and I was present during all that chaos that was happening. Him, it was worse because you can imagine the whole year, the whole term actually, he was being battered. Until now, the hardship came and they settled, and the recruitment was done when things were thick between Uhuru and William Ruto. So there is nowhere William Ruto participated in recruiting the Serera Four, the four. And we really didn't care so much about that because, you know, if you start now fighting about individuals, it means you lose focus on the process. Enoch, it's very hard to actually rig an election. It's not an easy game, but you can, and even when they rig, it's not because there are no results. It's because they opt to announce the wrong results. They can. But it is very hard currently when results are being limited from the polling station to the National Tallying Center. And every constituency also has a tallying center where all these polling stations now remit the ballot boxes and the form that has all this, you know, the first form that will produce the polling station results. It is the turning center of the constituency is basically to put the sum total together, not to count. Because you already have counted at the polling center. So, you know, you can manipulate that addition, blah, blah, so that so that you give the wrong totals.
Yes.
But if you interrogate form by form, you will simply be able to get,
So the
and that's why they were unable to, there was no evidence, because the evidence was in the portal of every other polling station, and all the constituency forms were also in there. They didn't, they became comfortable. Look, Sasa, you know, they don't, I don't know. I think for the last 1 year before elections, I personally used to attend very many shows, TV shows, with very senior members. Let me not mention their names, but I used to attend many shows with very senior members of Azimio and ODM, per se, as a party. And also Jubilee, Akina Kioni, who's my cousin, Akina who and who. I used to tell them, you know, now away from the camera, let me say, because now I'm on the camera, I used to tell them, you will be shocked. This Manyara, you know this Manyara, this political analyst,
Yes.
and inaitwa Manyara, Haman,
Yes.
people akina Onyancha, avid debaters, people like akina Anyang' Nyong'o, my good friend, all these people, akina Karuma, akina Daniel Manzo, we used to meet during those shows. Behind the scene, when we now retreat, when we finish, we go for tea. You know, the TVs, the stations offer tea, just because you are doing at 6 a.m. anyway. Mapema sana. So, what is happening? They will ask you, Alice, are you not taking a risk? Many times Haman told me, you are going to lose, my dear sister. Just move. Because when the rubber hits the road, with Uhuru Kenyatta on the ground, you will not withstand the pressure. The voters will abandon you because you will be forced to face Mount Kenya. The Mount Kenya they wanted Raila to climb. They used to tell me, you will be forced. Manyara Haman. The other day I saw him saying that I know nothing. He knows. But they would not believe because they said, look, this thing is done. We have the deep state, Uhuru Kenyatta. We also have the money now. And we have the government. So they did not, the question is, you asked me, do you think, because many of them, from themselves, they have come out to say they had no system. They didn't have a system of protecting their vote, ensuring that things are going on well. Although, to be very honest, if we have the right system, we don't even need to have agents because there are a lot of money for parties. It's a lot of logistic headache for a party to take charge of their votes. And we know we have invested as a country in an electoral commission. Because the country has not advanced to the level, I think we are still not advanced to the level of trust that is needed and confidence that the process will give you results without you being present. Because you see, this agent of being there, it means you are afraid.
Yeah.
There is likelihood of your votes being tampered with. But systems should be such that they are not, they are foolproof. However, they didn't have good system. We had systems almost every other constituency. We had a county chief agent. We had a sub-county or constituency chief agent. We had a ward, call them either chief agents or coordinators, to be in charge of the polling station agents. And we, the leaders who were party certificate bearers, you know, the candidates, were in charge of recruiting for the party, and you recruit your own agents. So like myself, my case is that I recruited the agents in consultation with the party, because the party also had its own, system, but in consultation with them, because they don't know the ground, I am the one who recruited the presidential agents and fed them into the system. And I also recruited my own agents. And of course, some MCAs, candidates would also, the women reps. Yeah. So personally, I wouldn't have, for example, agreed that the presidential agents are the ones, although I'm the one who recruited, I needed extra hard. And now, because you see, presidential agents can also be taken over by other people. You know, it's a joint, that's a joint system or basket for agents. So I had my own, who I'm the one giving instructions. No other person can give instructions without me. So so it means my votes were being guarded by two. But the structure was that there is a national office with everything you can think of, including our servers, including our, full hall of whatever we needed to be able to monitor what is going on. And they were trained on time. So I trained my agents and party agents. In fact, I started training the party agents. 2 days before we were done. And they knew who will be in charge of which station. Badges and all those things, and affidavits, oaths, documents that are required by IBC delivered. But also that there is a coordinator at the ward level. And I said constituency level and the county level. Yes. So the ward level will collect the forms. We had all our forms from the police. That's a small number. You're talking between 10 in most rural areas, between 10, 12 to 20 polling stations in one ward. So you have a coordinator to do that exercise. Yeah. So it wasn't hard, but of course it's huge. I guess it's when you break it down to constituency, with now people like us, and to county, I'm the one who selected the county coordinator. So we were okay. They didn't have. So they don't know how the results went. So they had to just issue.
That's the reason why they failed in court.
They failed because, you need to demonstrate. One, these are my papers. They say different from this. The documents, because it's when you collect those forms that you are able to say, these are my forms, these were issued at the polling station, and they are not the ones reflected in the system. It's a period. So they really, you have heard Kanchori saying, even at the last minute, day before, they were still arguing who brought this agent, who is in charge, who is paying. Where there was no money, for example, myself, I took over to pay. I guaranteed the agents I selected or I appointed on behalf of the party to pay if there is no money. But you know what? We actually, as a party, paid through M-Pesa. Everybody we did not handle cash. Everybody got their money, and they got their money on time. Any small balances that may remain, we handled individually at your own constituency or county if they come, but you also forward them to the party. If for any reason 1 or 2 people are not paid and they work, they are in the system. Yeah. It's ringimbiri tatu, unaripa so that you also don't give the party a bad name for nothing. Then you can sort yourself with the party or donate or contribute to the party. 100%, I believe, one, we won. Number 2, and in fact, these results were known by Thursday. Remember, they were announced on Monday. By Thursday, when I finished, my results were delayed for literally 2 days for unknown reasons. But you see, there were people identified, I being one of them, their results to be delayed, pending. Remember I said, some of these people who remained in Jubilee or Azimio were promised to be announced whether they won or not. So some constituencies, key members' results were being delayed deliberately. That's not good for IBC because that is at the returning officer level. And you see, returning officer is a powerful person. They can decide to just clock to buy time. But then the good thing, and that's why the system is transparent, you have your own forms. You will put them to task. But I came to learn that the reason they were delaying is so that if Raila is announced ahead, before some constituencies like mine are announced, results will be changed. So I went and announced my results because everything had been done and there was a necessary delay. I went because now it was getting very, very worrying and very tiring. Yeah. And I was one of the agents to go to the Tarring Center, National Tarring Center. So I decided to pick a one Musafara, telling everybody these are our results. IBC has confirmed that they are just putting things together, which is what they told me. Mm-hmm. And therefore, I can go and then come for the certificate. Okay. But eventually, anyway, they finished their own whatever. So I left my people there. Eventually, they called me and they realized, this one we must now release the results. So I went straight to see the president, the deputy president then. And I asked him, are you comfortable? That was Thursday in the morning, before going to Bomas. I have my results. He asked me, what are you doing here? You're supposed to be in Bomas. I said, yeah, Your Excellency, I needed to fast. Now we have been on the ground. He's monitoring every step. I don't think he was sleeping. So he's now in a better place than me because now I'm in Muranga and Kandara. So I told him, even as I go, I need to know, how are we doing? Just to confirm maybe what I was seeing. He said, we are okay. We are very okay. We are winning this election. So to tell you the truth, I think even our margin somehow may not even be the margin we were supposed to win with. We were to win with a margin of about 800,000 votes. And at one time, they would announce, if you are not careful, they could announce less by 1,000. This same Sherera you're seeing now, and indeed, I don't know why we are entertaining. You see, election process is over. This conversation should not be about votes that were stolen, about this conversation happening through Parliamentary Dialogue Committee should be about where we can improve on the law, on the regulations, on the process for a transparent, open, clear, very viable election. If there is anything else we can do other than what we have in terms of the forms, in terms of the security features, that is the conversation. Not Serera to walk there now and start talking about what didn't happen and what happened. Because actually Chebukati was beaten in our presence. He was rapped by, I think, Kanchori. Redama took tables, turned them in the face of cameras, very, 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 very dangerously so. And the place is full. Goons were flying. Let me tell you, it was a very, very insecure place. Anytime, any slight mistake could have caused total bloodshed within Bomas of Kenya. And we worked so hard on our side to maintain peace. So thank goodness there were choruses and songs that were being, that was a brilliant idea, by the way, so that we can concentrate on praises and singing. The plan was to disrupt and to provoke our teams. The plan by Azimio was to provoke our teams and make sure we start fighting there inside. With that, then the police will join in. The police that time was part of the whole of that because even the numbers that were being allowed in, They had badges in advance, security sijui badges for goons. These goons that were behaving funny there had badges of either VVIP or security teams badges, and they were given in advance. Actually, the system was in control of the bombers plenary in a way. But Chebukati and his people and our teams, because we already had given people in advance for verifications, they worked so hard. But on our part, we had a clear message from the president, William Ruto. Do not respond to any provocation. It does not matter the extent of provocation. You remember an image of Kidiki almost going berserk, trying to stop responses and reactions from our teams against the Azimio affront. That was coming directly because where William Ruto was, he was observing bombers 24/7. And he could see the strategy. So we actually looked meek, beaten, and stupid in a way. In an environment like that where people want to attack you. Like the word tells us, if you are slapped the right, give the left. In a bomber setup, that's not the easiest thing to do. But that really was the magic that made the extent of violence that would have been there reduced drastically. We are aware that when the disruption occurred, tables thrown, whatever, you remember Chebukati retreating. Overnight, he had already been told, you must agree to moderate by boss wako and some security agencies. You have to moderate. They were using the word moderate. These results. Moderate results, obviously, to that extent meant you change. Wako actually said, we have done it before. This is the information that has come to us. And if they can try Chebukati, he will say it. I mean, if Chebukati has spoken before, he worked under very bad circumstances because his commissioners, according to him, and we could see, were reporting elsewhere, not to their chairman, not to IBC. Even the choice of where they went to do the conference after they walked out, even the choice of where they were sleeping, evidence is there, who was paying for it. You can't, because IBC has money to pay for your accommodation, assuming your home is not secure. In fact, they are normally advised to change their residence. Chebukati for 3-4 days, I think he was sleeping in bombers with no bed, maybe a mattress, I don't know. But generally, he was a tired person. He was very exhausted. He was very frightened. But I love the fact that when it became evident that if these results are delayed, because I think he was trying to negotiate with the commissioners that they do it as a team, because that really is what is ideal. Yeah, no, well, it's ideal. Yeah, it's ideal because you are commissioners there, you are a team. But legally, the announcement of results, the electoral law gives the mandate and the responsibility to the returning officer at ward level, at constituency level, to returning officer, and at national level, to the chairman. So that there is no doubt about that. And you cannot say the clerks in my constituency, if they said no, because some of them were running the computer, the ICT system, that they will say no, will the returning officer not announce the result? You understand? Yeah. Because they are the equivalent of the commissioners at national level. Even in a polling station, you have a presiding officer, not a returning officer, a presiding officer, and a deputy. The deputy merely assists the presiding officer. Yeah. So the responsibility to announce the results is on the presiding officer. So at constituency is the returning officer. The returning officer at national level is the chairman.